questions. Okay, let's go to the next question. So now it's such an interesting time, you know, and we are at. So I believe that everything happens for a reason. And then how do you feel about the way things have shifted now that we have experienced the COVID pandemic? It's such a big shift happened in the whole world.
Right.
So just like to know, and then also what do you think people should be aware of?
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting question. The COVID question is a big theme. And my guiding ones, when I asked why this happened, they say there's always a spiritual agenda, then there's a political agenda, and there's a personal economic agenda, and so on. So there are many agendas why something is happening. On a spiritual agenda, it was allowed to happen and allowed to be created so that this earth could get a breather and so that people could have a reset possibility. Because what happened is when everybody needed to stay home, there was no more pollution for a while because not so much traffic was there. Over Hong Kong and over other big cities, or even in India, there was no more smog just because there was no commute anymore. Then the second thing is that people had the time to look within themselves and see, do I really want to stay in the rat race? Do I really want to continue the life as I have been living it? So they had the possibility to push a reset button in their lives. And even today, a lot of people, you know, here in our country live off the benefits of not having to go to work because they're getting substitute money. But we have also seen in Venice, maybe you have seen the videos too, where the dolphins came back into the Venice channels and played in the canals, which had beautiful blue waters again. So it had a lot to do to make us aware about the pollution on Mother Earth. When at the time, on last year March, I went to Mexico for my annual vacation there, I had a very interesting experience. We were about to land and going over the jungle in Cancun when a goddess approached me out of the forest. It was a very intense vision, and she sent out the jaguar, and the jaguar is a symbol or a messenger, and this jaguar was swiping my leg and then went on, and she said to me that something was sent out into the world for nature to have a breather. So that was the spiritual agenda. And at the same time, when I come back from Cancun, a friend of mine who's also a spiritual teacher, she got a similar message that a forest being had approached her and said that the trees all over the world were sending love to the people so that they could rise to a new level of awareness and understanding. So on the let's say non-spiritual level, of course a lot of people with their political agendas and one word maybe government agendas pulled a lot of strings, because this virus is artificially created. This is not a natural virus. And I mean, I don't want to go into any discussion about that, but believe me, it is a created scenario, and it was an artificially pushed up scenario to create fear in people and to be able to manipulate them maybe to certain behaviors and to vaccine passports and to more control. So what we learned all about this, I think, as individuals, is how important it is to have togetherness. A lot of people were very isolated. Now, in one sense, you could uplink with your spirit self better, because you you know, could through meditation have the chance to not feel alone, but to experience this need for spirit, and therefore not needing other people. But in another sense, we are here on this planet together, so this individualism and isolatedness made it very hard for many people, because they had no social contacts and no love connection. So I think what it also made people aware is the need for love and a need for being together, and maybe taking on non-so-usual pathways to meet people. Maybe in Japan people went more online dating, where maybe before online dating was said to be, nah, that's not for me. I don't do online dating. I don't want to expose myself. But because of the isolation now, people went over the bridge to take to social media, or to take to these online things to meet and connect. And you could meet and connect there globally. So it had something to do with interconnectedness too. And I think that's a big chance. But on the other hand, I have to say that we are not done yet. This artificial creation of the COVID was just a dry run for something else to come. And I do not want to create fear in people. That's not what it is. But what I would say is that people should be more forthright about their connectedness to another, to be not so shy about it, to reach out to people, to speak up, I like you, and life is short, so let's have togetherness, and let's look at the inside of a person instead of, oh, that person has too long a nose, and that person has too big ears, or this person is too small, this person is too long, and this person is too this and that. Let's just look more into the heart and connect. So this is what Spirit told me, that in this upcoming 10 years, where there might be another 2 pandemics coming, we were supposed to look at our undigested fears and undigested emotions. And why? So that we in the end, in around 2030, could be able to let go of our blame shame game. You did this to me, or I suffered under you, because we could digest it. And then come into this responsibility. I created my life. My soul created my reality. I wanted to have a certain experience, and not to judge ourselves for the choice of this experience, but also not to judge the other who gave us this experience. There's a nice story from Neil Donald Walsh about the little soul and the sun. The little soul, in the assembly of souls and angels with God, so to speak, it's a synonym, it's a parable, was asking, God, I would like to experience a certain thing with you, or of you. And God said, sure, why not? And what would you like to explore? And the little soul said, forgiveness. And God said, okay, I grant you that wish, that you can explore my forgiveness. But somebody else has to be there with you too, to give you something to forgive. And that can only be done voluntarily. So another soul volunteered, let's call the soul 2. So soul 2 volunteered for soul 1 and said, when we go down though, remember, I'm exactly what you are. I'm no different. I'm exactly what you are. And little soul number 1 said, oh sure, I will of course remember. I just want to experience this tiny little thing of forgiveness. So they incarnated, and of course soul number 1 and soul number 2, they didn't remember right away who they were, and so karma was created, and soul 2 had to lose to soul 1, and soul 1 back to soul 2, and so there was this karmic evolution happening until they both remembered who they were and can come back up. Now we are at the time where we should come back up, where we should reconnect, where we should uplink to our soul self. This is a time of awakening, and COVID in its weird way gives us a chance to be part of this journey home by meditating more, by reaching out more, and not to judge their co-fellow soul, but to say, you are as me. You're not good, you are not bad, you just are in your experience what you signed up to experience. And to come out of our victimhood saying, you did this to me, you know, and I'm the poor victim. But to go beyond that and to say, okay, check mark that experience, been there, done that, I don't want this anymore. But now I am integrating this, and now I'm clearing this out of my system so that I can rise like the phoenix out of the ashes and to see myself as this beautiful soul as I really am. And that's part of what COVID would, you know, do too. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Very good. Thank you so much for amazing. It's great. So let's go to the next question.
Okay.
Okay. It was really deep conversation, but
sorry.
no, it was really deep answer. But let's move on to the next question. So, you do the session, you know, in person too. But now, you know, I understand you also offer session via Zoom. Like people live in Japan and they cannot come to Sedona right now, so you still, you know, do the Zoom session.
Yes.
But is there any difference than face-to-face in-person session to then the via Zoom session? Because it's not physically, you know, connected,
right,
on the screen. But is there some difference between that?
No, actually it's not really different at all. I have had clients for over 10 years who never saw me yet and had referred their friends and family members to me even though they never saw me. But I saw them even when we were just doing the telephone sessions. So because I'm a soul empath, when I close my eyes, I can see people. I can see people's energy field. I can see people's faces. As a medium, when I see people on the other side, I can describe how they look oftentimes. So it doesn't really matter where you are, in which continent you are, whether you're right next door or whether you are in Japan or New Zealand or Australia, or I work worldwide with Zoom, and I have done it before through the phone. So this is not new to me. So Zoom is just a little bit more advanced because now both parties can see each other. Before it was only me who could see the client. But you see, spirit has no boundaries. So I don't need to feel your aura or sit in your aura presence to download information for me to give you a session or a reading or a clearing or whatever it is. I can do it just, you know, energetically. I even do long distance healing where I tune into the person's body or disease and transform or ascend the person's diseasement so that they energetically can be uplifted. So a lot of clearing work. I did several past life regressions with people through Zoom. They lay down, I guided them through, and they could clear out the past life negative events, because when I do past life regression, I also do clearing with it, not just looking at it, say, oh, how horrible was that, but let's do something about it. Let's go from this reality into this reality, because we are living in a multidimensional reality, and every single thought, every single decision creates a different reality. So that's why sometimes when you get readings and the reading timeline is certain things are destined, yeah, so you have one destined time point after another, but certain things are free will. So instead of this timeline, sometimes you go into this timeline, but the destined parts stay the same vertically and or horizontally. It doesn't really matter. So the answer is purely yes. It does not matter where you are. We can work together. If you can have Zoom or phone or FaceTime, Skype, if you do not have Zoom or do not like Zoom, we can do it all, no problem whatsoever.
Wonderful.
And it can be recorded as usual.
And then people can watch over and over again.
Not watch it, but listen.
Listen. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not so video person.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. So, you know, on your work, you, I have heard crystal is really important part of your work. And what is that? You know, the crystal.
Well, I use a lot of crystals. A, for healing. B, for grounding when I do my channeling sessions. I'm using certain crystals under my chair when I do a lot of channeling, because I'm going really high up, and certain crystals ground me through this reality, through my root chakra. And I sometimes put also my feet on certain crystals so that I stay grounded and focused here while my head is high in the sky. Then also, I think it's important to mention that right now there is a huge crystal activation time going on where certain crystal fields in this planet are activated. A client friend of mine in Japan actually sends me newfound crystals to analyze and to say, what do they do? What does this do? What does this crystal group do? And then I describe the job description of the crystal for this ascension of humanity. So the crystals, as they are resonating with our crystalline structure and also resonating with our higher self structure, because our higher photon or energy self has often a certain crystalline high vibrational structure too. So through the crystals we can easily link up to that. I love this word, linking up, because we are here and we just link up to something what we already are too. So it's not that we have to become something different, we are just uplinking to something which we already are. And crystals can help us very much so. So oftentimes when people came in person, I sent them home with some crystals here from Sedona and Payson area, because they had some very loving like pinkish hues to it and were there to link to this area, but also to open up the heart. And it does not always mean that a bigger crystal is better. Sometimes a small crystal can do the same job. So and it does, when you give away crystals or when you purchase a crystal from an area, you are automatically connected to that area. You are linked in with that area from wherever it comes. So one of my preferred crystals right now is a certain amethyst from the not Santa Cruz, but Santa Cruz area in Mexico. They are very light, but they're very high frequency. But there are so many crystals to be found right now. You will, when you look, you will see new crystals being found anywhere in the world which we do not know about. And it's not always that the most beautiful crystals hold the most tremendous light. Sometimes the most ugly duckling crystal can do the most prolific job for you. This one gentleman who sent me the crystals for analyzation, some of them were really ugly, but their job was to help to ascend and accept the parts in us which we do not like. So the crystal helped to open it up and look at the shadow side and look at this which we don't want and put to the side, and to say, no, this is okay, this is a part of me. I'm not lesser because I have that. And only when we integrate that can we really ascend, because we can only then let it go by accepting it. So sometimes the ugly crystals have their purpose too. So don't go for, it has to be bigger, it has to be the most polished. Yes, certain quality crystals, when they're big and polished and have you know, rainbows in them, and they're so beautiful and your heart lifts up because you see the beauty in the crystal, yes, that has its validation. But if you should be attracted to an ugly duckling crystal, then don't put yourself down and say, well, I would rather buy this one, but this is beautiful, but I would rather buy this one and I do not know why. Then follow your instincts and buy that one which is meant for you to work with. Okay? And one other thing about crystals. The crystals which are actually raw have more power, mostly. It's not a general norm, but mostly the crystals which are raw have more power, natural power, because they're alive. The moment crystals are treated, either heat treated or polished, and a certain, let's say, Lemurian seed crystals. Lemurian seed crystals have normally these ripples, which is like an old disc, right? The old discs had rippled, music discs had the ripples, like on a record, yeah, they had ripples. So the Lemurian seed crystals have ripples like that. when you polish them away, they might look better and more beautiful, but part of the purpose is laying in these ripples like a record. So it's like a record keeper, and therefore the most polished crystals not always do the best job. Yes, they might lift the heart up higher, but if you can look also at the natural non-polished crystals.
So how people can choose the best one for them, like each of them have different crystal they you know is need, but like a whole, or just how people can
all right. Well, first of all, oftentimes people go by books and say, oh, in the book says this is for the heart and this is for the liver and this is for this and that. My recommendation would be, do not go by the books, go by your heart. What do you feel? Because your soul speaks through your heart. So how do you know what your heart likes? When you look at things, you will be drawn to beauty. That's natural, but you might also, something catches your eye. It might even be a pebble when you walk on the street or in a park, which catches your eye. So when it's catching your eye, that means you have a connection. Or if you are going to a crystal store and asking, well, there's so much overwhelming, beautiful crystals here, how do I choose? I would take the left hand and go with the left hand over the crystals, and then you will feel like a little tingling in the center of your palm because you resonate with it. It's like, ooh, there's a little tingle there. Okay, let's see which stone. Is it this one, or is it that one, or is it this one? So you narrow it down. But I would start with a big sweep over the crystals, and you know, with the left hand, because left is the incoming energy side. The only difference is when you are a left-handed person, then the left hand is the active doing hand, and then you might have more success checking with the right hand. But most people, to my knowledge, are right-handed. And for the right-handed person, it's definitely the left hand to check with, because it will be more sensitive for the receiving energy. Left is receiving, right is doing and giving and sending. So also when you do healing work, you know, you are mostly sending with the right hand when you do Reiki, and you will let in the energy of the higher dimensions through the left hand side while you're working with the client, if you do not use both hands.
I see.
So the left hand is the one which you can decide. Or, I mean, there are so many techniques how to decide for crystal. When you hold a crystal and it gets warm, or you feel a pulsation, that's definitely a reaction from the crystal that it wants to work with you. So that could be a resonance too. Or you hold it close to your heart and you see whether you push forward towards it or away from it. Then it might not, when you push away, then it might not be for you. So we cannot necessarily say, okay, citron is this way. All citron have to do with, you know, bringing in money or so, or bringing in wisdom, or bringing in joy. Every single stone is different. So if you have 15 crystals, go with your hand. Or if you ask, is citron right for me right now, you could stand or sit and ask and see whether your tendency is going forward or tendency is going backward. You can use your body as a pendulum too, if you so desire. But my most practical one would be the left hand. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And then when people get the right crystal for them, and then how they use it, like keep it close to them, or just keep in the bag, or just put the jelly like this, or that, you know, really, so many different ways.
Yes, that really depends on what you want to do with it. For example, for grounding crystals, I would put it close to the first chakra for grounding, into your pocket, or you know, under your feet if you're sitting. For the red crystals, for example, carnelian or such. If you use a more uniform crystal like quartz, which you can program for a certain need, quartz crystals are the most, sorry about that, quartz crystals are the most versatile crystals, and that depends on the purpose. So if you have a purpose of cleaning something and you have a crystal wand, then you use it, of course, and you determine, this is my clearing out crystal. If you then use another one, this is my bringing in energy crystal, that they keep for that particular purpose. And then you, after you use them, you cleanse them either with water or with the sunlight. But you have to be careful, because not every stone or crystal likes the sun. Sun can be very hard, as you know, when you're here in Sedona. So for example, tanzanite likes better moonlight or water. Kunzite should never ever be cleansed with sunlight, because it will lose its color. So ask the crystal what is okay, and believe me, your intuition will tell you, or the crystal will tell you. So trust a little. And not every book has everything right. So give yourself also a little bit credit, and ask your higher self, and ask the stone when you hold it, okay, what is your best preferred method for cleaning? How would you like to be cleaned? And they might say, hold me for 5 minutes under flowing water, or bury me in dirt in your backyard or your flower pot, or have me an hour or a full moon cycle, you know, at night under the stars, or put me in sunlight for an hour, put me in sunlight for 24 hours. So you see, there is not the one rule for working with crystals. You have to be in tune to what your crystal needs. Yeah?
I see.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, so the next question is really simple. Where is your favorite spot in Sedona?
That is not a simple question.
There's so many beautiful spots, and then I have so many favorite spots. I even cannot choose one, but just you know, simple question.
Yes, one of my favorite spots is actually a gateway, which is by Cathedral Rock. When you go Cathedral Rock and you go onto the first plateau, there is a little bit lower plateau on the left hand side, and there is a spiritual gateway, which makes it very easy to ascend and to get visions, or to go to another astral plane, or to travel or time travel, or doing certain things. So when I sometimes go with my private groups, I go to that spot, and unfortunately it's very overcrowded these days because we have so many tourists here, but that is one of my favorite spots. And I was with a group of people, and they did a psychic boot camp, and there were a lot of pictures taken during this psychic boot camps, and in the pictures you could see that some people's down part was disappearing, and only the upper part was visible, while the next person's upper part was invisible and the downside was, and so it didn't make any sense. So this is a very, very powerful spot. Other things happened there with time shifts, where people photographed how they would look in the future, like 10, 15, 20 years from now. Very interesting spot. So that's one of my favorites, but unfortunately very overcrowded.
On the left side of the trail?
Yes, on the left side of the trail, when you go to the first plateau, and then you go a little bit to the left. Yeah.
I see. Anywhere else?
Yes, my other favorite spot is, no, actually I have two favorite spots. One is by the Crescent Moon Range along the water, and it is actually close to the water with the view onto Cathedral Rock, but it's where two trees come together, and one is a sycamore tree which has the trunk growing away from each other because the ley lines go directly through, and then next to it is a cedar tree, and it's a beautiful yin-yang energy there, because the sycamore tree represents the feminine and the cedar tree represents the masculine, and they're growing into each other. And if it wouldn't be for the ley line, the energy line, they wouldn't do that. Normally trees are different species, keep a distance from each other, but here they're growing into each other. And it's so symbolic for the energy merging, this yin-yang of the energy there. And when you're sitting on that ley line, that energy line, you will get a lot of information from two vortices. One from the Casino Rock vortex, and the other one behind from the pyramid vortex, which many people do not know or pay attention to because there's not a direct path and there's a lot of cacti, which makes it very difficult to ascend. I have brought people up there, but mostly got some cactus thorns, so I didn't do that for a long time. But when you sit there, you can tune into both ley lines and to both vortices. Oh, and then the third one is not really a vortex related spot, but it is a spot where Native Americans lived for a long time. It is the place of a old village site. And each time I go there, I tune back into the times when the villagers were there, and they were actually very happy people. They lived at a time where there was not so much persecution from other tribes. They had enough to eat. They ate rabbit almost every day. They were good in hunting. They had a good life, and it was a very happy place. Which brings me to another spot like that with the Native American, where I always hear laughter, and that is also at the Crescent Moon Ranch, but that's further down where the Buddha beach is, and where the water, it's almost like energy comes like a waterfall from Casino Rock and goes into the water, into the river. And in the olden days, there were a lot of Native American children, and the mothers were cleaning the clothes and the children were splashing in the water, so it was a very happy place. And each time I'm going there, I dive back into the time where there was these women cleaning the clothes from the cliffside up in the mountain range, and their kids were playing and having a great time, and everybody was very peaceful. So that's my favorite spot.
I see. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, so it's gonna be the last question.
Okay.
So, may I have any messages for people who were watching this interview? Any kind of message?
Okay. Is it allowed to be an exercise?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Anything else will come up to you?
I want people to be able to try to channel. Okay. And I will explain the exercise, and we can do it. And I would just ask them to trust. So I would like them to really sit straight and have their feet parallel on the ground, and envision a golden sun over the head. One ray of the golden sun floats to the top of your head, into every single cell of your brain, eyes, nose, mouth, throat, and neck, into the shoulders, arms, hands, and out of the fingertips, along the spine and muscle structure, into the heart and chest opening both wide, into the solar plexus to make it more radiant, into the whole digestive system, into the hips, legs, knees, calves, feet, and through the feet into the ground like roots. All old non-supportive beliefs can be swept away into Mother Earth for recycling, while just a glistening, wonderful golden light prevails. And then you let the golden light go further down, down, deeper down, further down, until you envision that you reach a beautiful, beautiful crystal in Mother Earth. And then you grab on with your light roots onto the crystal. And when your roots hold onto the crystal, then you bring up the white light from the white crystal up through you again like a fountain. And you bring the energy up all through your crown and let it fall upon you like a fountain. So you will be in a fountain of light, sponsored by Gaia, sponsored by Mother Earth, while you're also connected to the central sun, or to your higher self, or to your higher beingness, when you are connecting to the sun energy. So it's a cycle. The golden light flows from the golden sun through the crystal, and the crystal brings it back up, and so on. So it's becoming a up and down and down flow. And in this flow, while you're sitting and you're starting to relax into this flow, when you're feeling you are sitting or standing in the light beam, then you ask a question. I ask now my guiding ones and guardians, my highest powers available to me, to answer me about this or this question. And then whatever comes first, you speak, no matter how silly it is, no matter whether you're thinking you make it up, you just talk. And you will find that you get answers to your questions from, if at least your higher self or your guides or some higher developed being, because you need to say, I would like to get the answers from the highest possible and highest evolved being possible and willing to answer me now. And then this will happen. And I would like you to trust the process and just try it out. Once you have finished speaking and you get your information, and by the way, there's a tip. If you have Word in your computer, you might do this in front of your computer and speak this meditation which I just gave you to yourself, and you know, the golden light flows into the top of my head and so on. You speak it to yourself as you envision it, and then the speaking will keep on going when you ask, and now I'm asking from the highest power available to me an answer to this question. And you state the question, and then you will receive an answer, just like that. Just like that. And then you keep on talking. And the nice thing is, when you have Word has a tiny little microphone on the top of the document, because when you tick it on and you keep on talking, it will write it automatically onto the Word page. Then you do not have to go back, re-listen and type it later. Because what I would recommend for you when you do this exercise, that you write down what you're getting. So this is one of the channeling exercises which will be part of the workshop, and I can assure you that when you do it with the golden light, you will have natural protection, that nothing dark will come forth. But the key is to ask for the best and highest possible being or entity available to you to answer this question. And with that set intention, only the best and highest available energy or entity or being will come forth to answer. And I tell you, it can be really amazing. So take a heart and try it out. That would be my message to you, because that will lead you and uplink you to your own powerful self. And don't give so much power away to people like me or others. You are this beautiful being, and my mission is to make you aware of that. I hope you got this message from me today, and thank you for having me today. Thank you for having me, Akko. It was my absolute pleasure to talk to you all, and thanks for all the wonderful questions.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hopefully it's